Hello, my name is Stephen Smith, and I'm a leadership trainer. This is the second week of Leadership 101, and I wanted to invite you to join me in a Bible study that will help us to see how good leadership can actually be if we follow the principles that are here in the Bible for us. Now, there's lots of opportunities for us to be able to grow and hear and know and understand. And I encourage you to share this with your friends. You can even subscribe down here in the lower corner here. And if you do that, then you're going to get all of these updates as we go along. Also, I want to let you know that if you'd like to follow along, you can look down in the comments, and down there you'll find a link to not only these slides, but you'll also find a link to the notes so that you can follow along and take notes. Because, the more that you get involved with things, the more that you start following along and writing things down, that's the best way to really understand. Now, this is Leadership 101, and this is the second class that we have in this study. And I think that you're really going to find a really good opportunity to be able to learn and to pick things up here. Primarily what we're going to be looking at is we want to lead the way that Jesus led. Now, last week we looked at leading the way that God led, and we looked at the 23rd Psalm. That helps us to see how important leadership really is and how it interacts with us as we move along and as we go along in these processes. For, the Bible tells us in Revelations 5:10, it says, "And you have caused them to become a kingdom of priests for our God, and they will reign on earth." So I want you to see this, that you have actually been called to be a leader. You might not have the parking space out front. You might not have a name tag on your shirt. You might not have a plaque on your desk. But the reality is that God has actually called you to lead. If you're part of this Christian kingdom, then you're going to lead. It's important for you to be able to understand these different processes and procedures that we have so you can follow along and do this as well. Now, to begin with, we want to go back over our definition of what leadership actually is. Leadership is the ability to be able to provide a vision and then communicate that vision to the members of the team, which facilitates the accomplishment of the goals of that organization. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that I'm able to clearly communicate with my team, and I want to develop a vision and bring them along with them on that. And that's what leadership really is all about. Today, what we're going to talk about is servant leadership. And servant leadership gives us the opportunity to be able to reach out and to touch people's lives in a way that we would not normally do it. And we're going to cover 6 different things that can actually help us to grow as leaders. Now, the first thing that we want to do is we want to develop relationships. We want to upend the pyramid. We want to raise the bar. We want to blaze the trail. We want to build on strengths. And we want to run with great purpose. Now, these 6 different things will actually help us to become better leaders in a way that we've never thought of before. And in fact, a lot of people think of leaders as somebody that's out front, that somebody's telling people what to do, and we all want to be the boss, and all these kinds of things that actually take leadership to the level that we really want it to be. But the reality of all leadership really is what is it about the organization? What is it about the team that you can help them to become better? Now, the idea here is that a servant can actually help lead people in a way that is unique from anything else that you've already had seen or heard. And in fact, you've probably seen this or seen me say this several times, but let me explain what I'm saying. Now, the verse that we're going to use for all of this is we're going to go back to Psalms 23:1, and it says, "The Lord is my shepherd, I have all that I need." What that tells us is that servant leaders actually provide for the team. They can help them do all these different types of things that help them to grow, that help them to know, that help them to really become who they're supposed to be. And that's what we want to do as leadership or leaders. Now, the first thing that we want to adjust, or the first thing that we want to talk about, is that we want to develop relationships. Now, if I can develop a relationship, then I know that my team can actually see that I'm human, and I can see that they're human as well. This isn't just about, I'm the boss and you're not. That's not at all what leadership is. In fact, servant leadership is the exact opposite of that. 1 Thessalonians 5:11 tells us that, so encourage each other, build each other up, just as you have already been doing. So what we want to do is we want to encourage others, we want to build them up, we want to do that through the development of relationships. And I can do that in 3 different ways. The first thing is that I want to let them know that you are just like they are. So I'm going to let them know that I'm human, that I make mistakes. And in fact, they already know that you make mistakes if you're already in a leadership position. Trust me, they know. The other thing is that I want to let them know that that I've gone through the same processes that they have. I've been faced with the same challenges that they've been faced with, and I've developed my own abilities and my own skills based off of the relationships that I've had in the past. So my development of a relationship with them is more of a fellowship. In fact, I'll touch on that in just a second. The second thing that we want to do is we want to listen to them, but we want to listen actively. If I can listen actively, I can understand them better. I can understand what their needs are, what their desires are, what their goals are, what they want to accomplish in this life, not just in the tasks that I've assigned them, but also what they want to accomplish throughout the entire time that they're here on this earth. If I listen actively, then I know that I'm going to be able to speak with them clearly, that I'm going to be able to motivate them in certain ways, and that I'm going to be able to help them in other ways as well. But I can only do that if I listen actively. The third thing that I want to do is I want to develop opportunities to fellowship. So what I want to do is I want to have mixers. I want to get together with them. I want to sit down and bring the team together as a whole, and not only fellowship with them, but get them to fellowship with one another. For if I can get them to crosstalk across boundaries, if I can help them to contribute to the needs of others, if I can help them to contribute to the success of others within the team, you're going to see that you're going to build not only a great individual, but also a great team. And I do that by developing opportunities to fellowship. The second thing that I want to do is I want to upend the pyramid. And now, upending the pyramid, what it does is I want to find the paradox and I want to change it. So the Bible has lots and lots of paradoxes for us. If I look closely at the Bible, I can see a paradox in the fact that if God tells us that we will give so that we can receive, that makes no sense whatsoever to our flesh. But the Bible actually gives us this, and it helps us to recognize that if I'm willing to serve, then I can actually be a leader. And sometimes that doesn't make sense either, but let me share this with you. It's almost like taking the pyramid, and we take the pyramid like this, and we can see ourselves here at the top. And if I look at the top of the pyramid, I know that, okay, I'm up here at the top, and everybody underneath here is there to support me, there to be able to accomplish the mission. They're there to do what I tell them to do. But check this out. If I switch the pyramid and I upend it, now if I put myself on the bottom and I put the needs of the team on top, I put the needs of the individual, I put the needs of my subordinate leaders, I put the needs of the organization ahead of my own needs, what's going to happen is that the pyramid will be elevated. Even though it's upended, as it becomes elevated, I'm lifted up with the team. So if you're looking to get promoted, if you're looking for that raise, if you're looking for all those things because that's what leadership brings, you're in leadership for the totally wrong reason. You'll find that as you do these things, you're going to be lifted up with your team. And I'll tell you that while I was in the military, I experienced this several times in a row. I found that if I put the needs of the team ahead of my own, I was the one that got promoted. I was the one that was given more responsibility. I was the one that got the raises. I was the one that was able to have more influence as I was able to do these things. But it's really all about taking care of the team by upending the pyramid. So if I go through and I take care of the team first, then I know that I can also develop and also take care of my subordinate leaders, because what will happen is that as I show them how to do these things, then they're going to be doing the same thing by putting the needs of their team up above their own as well. And their teams are going to be that much more successful. And I want to recognize that and let them know that. And then I'm going to put my needs at the bottom, but I'm not going to ignore them. I'm not going to say, well, I don't have any needs and it's not important for me. No, I don't want that promotion. No, I don't want that raise. Those things will come. But you want to accept them and receive them as they're due, not before they're actually ready to happen. And I don't want to make these things happen because it really changes the way that we look at things. So I can upend the pyramid in several different ways. John 13 and 14 says, "You call me teacher and Lord, and you are right, because that's what I am." So Jesus establishes himself as the leader. And the very next thing that you see is, "And since I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also ought to wash each other's feet." So what this is showing us is that although Jesus was the leader, he was willing to get down and wash his disciples' stinky, nasty feet. So what we want to do is we want to upend this pyramid by prioritizing the needs of others. If I understand them and if I've fellowshipped with them and if I have a good relationship with them, I know what their priorities are and I can lift those up above my own. I can also look for other paradoxes where not only am I teaching and learning, what I'm also doing is that I'm not only leading, but I'm also serving. If I put serving above leadership, then I know that I'm going to succeed. And that's just one of the paradoxes that can actually make a huge difference in your life. A lot of people say, hey, I've got to step on all kinds of different people's heads to be able to get to the top. People are there that I can climb over so that I can grow. That's not at all how we grow. I grow by lifting others up. And so if I look for these paradoxes, then I know that I can succeed. Now, the next thing that I want to do, and this is really important, I can upend the pyramid by every time that I have a relationship or every time that I come into contact with a member of my team or somebody new or some other opportunity, you want to ask, how can I help? Wow, I really like that goal that you have. How can I help you achieve that? These are all different things that we want to do, but if we ask that simple question, how can I help, then you're going to see that it's actually going to make a huge difference in your team. Now, the next thing that we want to do is we want to raise the bar. And we can raise the bar in 4 different ways. And we do this through John 15:16. Can you see the pattern here? You didn't choose me, I chose you. I appointed you to go and produce lasting fruit, so that the Father will give you whatever you ask for using my name. So Jesus said, look, go out in my authority, go out and do these things, but I've called you, I've appointed you to do these specific things, and you're appointed to go out and to do a specific task. In this case, he told us that we're to go out and produce lasting fruit. So if we know that, then we're going to be able to get those things. But the only way that I can do that is if I raise the bar. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to choose my team wisely. Even Jesus prayed. In Luke 6:12, we see him going out and praying all night long before he actually chose his team. He just didn't say, okay, Lord, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. He doesn't do those things. What he did is he prayed, he sought the Lord's guidance, and then he chose his team based off of what the Lord showed him. For God really knows the strengths of our teams. And if we have a good relationship with God, then we're also going to be able to develop that good relationship with our subordinates as well. Now, these next 3 things that are a part of this raising the bar are all a part of what Ken Blanchard teaches in the 1-Minute Manager. The first thing is that he says, hey, I want to get you to have 1-minute goals. So I can raise the bar by saying, hey, team, I want you to develop goals that you can say in a single sentence. In other words, I want to become more successful, but not just I want to be more successful because I want to. What is that success going to bring? What are you looking for, that promotion, that next thing? Why do you want to get to that next level? Why do you want to bring the team to that next level? What is the goal and what's the purpose behind it? So I want to be successful in selling the most amount of insurance this month. But if I have that 1-minute goal and if I understand that, then I can write it down and I can repeat it very, very quickly. If you've got a 6-paragraph goal and you're not going to say that every single day. The next thing is that we want to use 1-minute praises. If I find somebody doing the right thing at the right time, at the right place, then I'm going to give them 1 minute of praise. I'm going to say, hey, team, check out what Joe did. He lifted up the team by going above and beyond. He worked extra hours. He skipped his lunch break, but look at what happened. He got all the way through this task, and we're going to make sure that we recognize Joe for what he's done. It doesn't hurt to give them just a simple piece of ribbon or even a little thing that they can put on their desk that shows them that, hey, you were successful today, and I want you to understand it and know it, and you're recognized for it. Now, in the same way, he also uses the 1-minute reprimand. Now, if I'm going to reprimand somebody, I'm going to not tell them all the bad things that they did, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to provide them solutions for what they did wrong. In other words, I can identify what they did wrong, but I also want to provide solutions for that. I'm not just going to say, hey, you're all chewed up, you're messed up, you're horrible at what you're doing, you need to quit. What I want to do is, hey, this is what we did wrong and this is where we failed to succeed. So what I want to do is I want to then come up with a solution. We need to spend more time on this task. We need to understand the task more. We want to pay more attention. We need to be focused. I mean, there's all these different ways that we can do that. But if I am going to reprimand them, I also want to take the time that they can remember how they can overcome this failure and not repeat it. So if I can do those things, then what's happening is that I'm raising the bar. The next thing is John 13:15 says, I've given you an example to follow. Do as I have done to you. Now, this This verse tells us that we need to blaze the trail for our team. If I blaze the trail for my team, then I can do this in 3 different ways as well. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to lead by example. If I want my team to be morally sound, then I'm going to be a morally effective leader. If I want them to have an ethical principle in everything that they set their hands to, then guess what I have to do? I have to have ethical principles in everything that I set my hand to. I want to go out, if there's a dangerous part of this job that I need to become a part of, I'm going to go out and I'm going to do that with the team. For example, when we hit the streets in Baghdad, I didn't just hide in our forward operating base. I went out with our teams for the first 90 days. I did all the patrols that we had to do. I went out and I showed them that I was not afraid to do it. And in fact, I showed them how to hold their weapons. I showed them how to keep their eyes open, how to be aware of what was going on, how to suppress the enemy with gunfire. I mean, there's all kinds of things, how to act in a firefight. These are all things that I did and I led by example. But I'm blazing the trail here because I'm showing them, look, I'm out in front of you and you need to be able to follow me in a common sense way. The next thing that I want to do is I want to show the team how to do it right. I'm not going to make errors in front of the team. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get out there and I'm going to show them how to do it right. And I can do this in the very simplest of tasks, but I've got to know what I'm doing. I have to do the research. I have to have the knowledge. I have to have the wisdom. I have to have the experience. I need to make sure that before I do it in front of the team, I've done it individually, that I've already succeeded in that. Now, I'm not going out and I'm not saying every time that the team does something, I say, you know what, I've done that, but I've done it better. And you all know people like that. We used to call them Stan. Shoot, that ain't nothing, right? So what we really want to do is I want to show them how to do it right. And then the other thing is that I want to make sure that I share my weaknesses with the team. Now you're saying, Steve, that makes no sense whatsoever. I don't want them following a weak leader. But here's the thing. They already know your weaknesses. I mean, they talk about it all the time. If you say, you know what, I know I have this weakness and this is the way that I'm working to overcome it. I need you to help me with that. If they know that they can help you with your weaknesses, they're going to be more likely to follow you because they feel that your leadership is a part of what they've helped to develop. In many cases, that is the case. But if you don't share your weaknesses with the team, your team is going to hold those weaknesses against you because, like I'm saying, they already know exactly what your weaknesses are. So make sure that you already identify those and get that out of the way so you can get leadership done the way that you know that you want to. And that's how we blaze the trail. We lead by example, we show the team how to do it right, and we share our weaknesses with the team. The next thing I want to do is I want to make sure that I build on strengths. Now I'm going to Ephesians 6:10 in this, and it says, a final word, be strong in the Lord and in his mighty power. So if I can build on my strengths, this is what I'm going to be able to do. I'm going to be able to say, wait a second, I don't want to say this is my weakness. I'm going to throw all my resources to develop my weaknesses, because all that's going to happen is that you might be a little bit successful with your weaknesses. But if you build on your strengths and on the strengths of your team, then what's going to happen is that you're going to reinforce success. And in fact, Sun Tzu, in his book, The Art of War, he said, you never reinforce weakness, you reinforce strength, or you reinforce success. And that's what we want to do. We reinforce strengths, not our weaknesses. The next thing that we do as we build on our strengths are we catch something doing great. Something great. I mean, something above and beyond. I'm not just saying something right. We want to find somebody that's actually excelled. And if we catch them doing that, we want to let them know, we want to let the team know, and we can go back to our 1 minute of praise. But we really want to make sure that if anybody is doing anything above and beyond the call of duty, anything above and beyond what we actually ask them to do, we've got to recognize it, because that will actually help build on those strengths. And especially if they have a natural ability or natural skill. And we've talked about this last week, but if you know that they do something very, very well, catch them doing that and reinforce that success. Because what will happen is that your successful people are going to become even more successful. Your weak people will always be moderate, and they will never come up to the level that they need to be until you start developing the strengths that you find in their lives. And everybody has those strengths, so you got to look for them. You've got to know them. And it goes back to this principle of actually developing an opportunity to fellowship with your team. Now, the third thing that you want to do is you want to develop your gifts and talents, not your weaknesses. Now, we've already talked about this, but if I develop my gifts and if I develop my talents, if I develop what the Lord has given to me, then I'm going to be able to take that success and I'm actually going to become that much more successful. But if I want to do that with myself, then I also want to do that with my team. So I'm going to recognize what their gifts are. I'm going to recognize what their talents are, and I can only do that through obedient observation. I really want to make sure that I look at what they're doing. I want to make sure that I understand what they're doing. And if I record it and if I write it down, then I'm going to really remember that this is where my team's gifts and talents are. This is how each of my individuals succeed in different aspects and different things. And I've got to be able to take that and promote that. So I'm going to build on strengths by reinforcing strengths, not weaknesses. I'm going to catch someone doing something great, and I'm going to develop their own gifts and talents, not their weaknesses. The last thing that we want to do is we want to run with great purpose, because if you've got great purpose, there's nothing that can stop you. All of your goals will be accomplished, and you're going to work. You're going to try the hardest that you possibly can until you can actually accomplish what it is that you've been called to do. Look, if you want to get into the NBA, we see kids that always say, yeah, I want to be an NBA player, but they never pick up a basketball until they hit high school. They never dribble a ball until they're in college, or even after they graduated from college and they're going to go try out for the Spurs or whatever team they're trying to become a part of. The reality is that the people who are successful run with great purpose. And those basketball players are the same ones that when they were 5 years old, they got a basketball and they slept with it. And they dribbled it every single place that they went. They were constantly shooting baskets with every single thing that hit their hand. They were constantly developing their skills and their attributes and all that God had put into their hearts. So if you've got something in your heart, then you can run with great purpose. We want to identify that with our team. And if I can provide a great purpose for my team, then they're going to run with that great purpose and accomplish all the tasks that are there. So what I want to do is I want to give them a vision that not only I can follow, but also that the team can follow. I'm not going to give them something impossible. Okay, we're going to Mars in a week and a half. That is not a good sound vision. But if I pick a vision that gets my team going to where I know that they can go, and if my team can follow this vision, and if I can follow this vision, then I can put this in front of them. Remember our definition of what leadership is. I got to get a vision in front of them and get them to buy off on it. The next thing that I want to do, and we talked a lot about this last week, is I want to harmonize my individuals with the team goals. So my individual goals that my teams have, I want to make sure that they run parallel with what our team goals are. And if I set realistic goals for my team that are parallel with the goals that my team actually have, their individual goals, then I know that I can succeed. So I want to say, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to sell 100 units of this. And they know that they are really, really good at selling 20 units of each. But if I've got 5 people selling 20 units, guess what I just achieved? We just achieved this purpose not only by my individuals, but now I've done it as a team. And if I can marry these teams and their goals, and as these goals increase and as the vision gets higher and higher, what happens is that my team is integrated with it and their individual goals are developing as well. So I'm developing leaders, I'm developing followers, I'm also developing the team to be able to harmonize themselves with their individual goals and the goals of the team. The next thing that I want to do is we want to reward actions that move the team forward towards these visions and goals. So if I've identified goals, I want to identify what those mid-level goals are, what those subordinate goals are. I can shoot for all the way up here, but every step that they take, I want to recognize that, hey, you guys did a great job. We're only this much closer to our team goals. Hey, you guys did a great job. You accomplished this task. You've already done all the other things below it. We need to make sure that we can stay focused on that final goal. And if I can reward these actions through promotions, through monetary things, through a simple $5 trophy, through a piece of ribbon on their cloth, through a button, through a admission to a club. I mean, there's all kinds of different ways that I can adjust these things, but I want to reward the actions of my team as they hit their subordinate goals toward that ultimate goal and where they're at. So servant leadership can be really complex, but really the bottom line for all of us to remember is this, that I want to develop those relationships. I want to make sure that I upend the pyramid. I want to make sure that I raise the bar. I want to make sure that I do all these things that help my team to succeed. I want to make sure that I'm blazing the trail, that I'm building on strengths, and that I'm giving a great purpose to run towards. When I do all of these things, I'm actually developing a servant leadership. Now, next week, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about a different style of leadership. And I think that you'll really find that as you go along, that you're actually going to be able to develop your leadership skills and abilities as you grow and as you understand and learn these things. Now, don't forget to subscribe down here and then hit the notification button. Otherwise, you might miss one of these leadership seminars. Also, don't forget to download the notes and don't forget to download the slides as well. They're both there. So you can click on those and you can actually take the time to follow along and learn and grow and lead. And in fact, I encourage you as a servant leader, start sharing some of these principles with the members of your team. Start sharing them with other people. Share them on Facebook. Share them on YouTube. Share them on Instagram if you can figure all that stuff out. I encourage you to take this and start going out and leading the way that you were created to lead. Well, I hope that this study was a good study for you. I hope to see you next week.